Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joint Town Council Parking Authority Redevelopment Agency meeting of April 18th. I'd ask, first of all, that everyone here, if you've not already done so, turn off your cell phones or put them on mute. And Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Councilmember Stephen Leonardis.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Spector.
Here.
Councilmember Diane McNutt.
Here.
Vice Mayor Steve Rice.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Joe Pazinski.
Here. As we do every time we get together, we have an opportunity to recognize a young leader in our community, and that young leader will be the one who presents us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, the young leader is Shamik Jain. He's a 7th grade student at Fisher Middle School. He's the treasurer of Fisher's Builders Club. He's the student MC at the Los Gatos Union School District Technology Showcase in 2010. He's the past student council member, a past student council member in his elementary schools. He's a lead for a youth service group at the Jane Center of Northern California in Milpitas. He has 48 hours of community service recorded at Fisher, and that's not counting the volunteer time that he spent at the Jane Center. He plays piano and violin. He's a swim team member at Los Gatos High, Los Gatos Polar Bears Aquatic Club. Cross-country and track team member at Fisher, soccer player during the fall with the Los Gatos Soccer League, basketball in Calvary Winter League. Shamik challenges anyone, and this is the last part, so this is for everyone in the house. Shamik challenges anyone to quiz him on anything related to Harry Potter. Okay. With that, I'd like to ask Shamik to come forward and lead us in the pledge. And will you all stand, please?
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's hear it for Shamik. And one more time, let's thank Shamik for presenting. Now I'm going to go down to the podium and I'm going to ask for a member of our audience to come forward. I'll introduce her when I'm down there. As you all know, this is Poetry Month in Los Gatos, appropriately proclaimed by the council at the beginning of the month. And this evening, we have a young poet with us. Her name is Liat Rubin. She is an 8th grade student at Fisher Middle School. Her teacher is Miss Elizabeth Sharkey. And as you know, we have been honoring our poets in waiting from the middle school, and Liat has an original poem that she's going to present to us and a few words about what motivated her or inspired her to write this poem. Liat?
Hi. Okay. My name is Liat Rubin, and this is my poem, Untitled, and it's about stereotypes and judgments because I don't know. I really don't like it when people look at someone and they categorize them in a certain way because of how they look or who they think they are. The stereotypes that stop thinking set a barrier on all that's known. When looks are categories and life is separated. When people are differentiated and hated due to the differences in their appearance. When the noticeable things aren't what's inside, but all the things that have been lied. And when things seen aren't what people really mean. When a life lived is guarded by fibs. When mistakes act and minds attack. When the fence is a color and the door has a password. That's capability is limited to ignorance and what's primitive. When life is crooks, and ideas are based on looks. When brains think on what's not real. When masks are the definition, and words are the repetition. When what's in vision is automatically truth, and when sadness is a great part of youth. When life throws a loose end, and there's nothing left to pretend, and happiness isn't bliss. Think of all the things in life we miss. Thank you.
Impressive. And Joanne Telesfor is here. Joanne has been the one who's been recruiting students to come and speak with us, and we really got a winner tonight. So thank you so much. And again, thank you for presenting. And let's hear it one more time for our poet. Okay, tough act to follow, but we're going to make an effort. This is an opportunity for me to declare National Arbor Day, and I have a proclamation to do so. I'd like to ask Rob Molden, our town arborist, and Brent Korsensen, who's the Parks Commission Chair, to come forward, please. These gentlemen are here to accept this proclamation on behalf of the town, and we are extremely proud to be able to make it tonight. Whereas the town of Los Gatos recognizes National Arbor Day as Friday, April 29th, 2011, and whereas the National Arbor Day Foundation, in cooperation with the National Association of State Foresters and the USDA Forest Service, established community forestry standards, and whereas the town of Los Gatos has, for its 31st consecutive year, been recognized as a Tree City USA for its commitment to an effective ongoing community forestry program, and whereas the town of Los Gatos established and observes the 4 National Arbor Day Foundation standards, a tree board or department, a tree care ordinance, a comprehensive community forestry program, and an Arbor Day observation. And whereas in recognition of status as a Tree City USA, the town of Los Gatos will plant trees in Blossom Hill Park on the 29th of April to celebrate National Arbor Day. Now therefore, be it resolved, I, Joe Przinsky, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Los Gatos, do deem it appropriate and do hereby proclaim Friday, April 29th, 2011 to be National Arbor Day within the town of Los Gatos, and call on all citizens to renew their commitment to urban forestry and those efforts for our community. Proclaim the 18th day of April 2011 in the town of Los Gatos, county of Santa Clara, state of California. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor Przinsky. Thank you, Bob Molden, and your colleagues at the Department of Public Works for coordinating these Arbor Day events every year. They're fantastic events. Los Gatos is a unique combination of urban sophistication and rural ambience, a town that stands at the crossroads of a historic past and a vibrant future. The annual celebration of Arbor Day perfectly represents these facets of our community. So once again, I would urge you all to please join us on April 29th at 10 a.m. at Blossom Hill Park, next to Blossom Hill School, for what is sure to be a joyous, fun, and very informative occasion. Thanks a lot.
I'm a man of few words, but I'd just like to express how grateful I feel to work for a community that has really bought into the urban forest. It's really a joy. I get up every morning looking forward to coming to this town and seeing how nice it looks. and how the people have bought into it. And come on the 29th, because we've got 4 red oaks we're planting at Blossom Hill Park, and they are the most beautiful trees. I'd like to see everybody there. Thanks again.
And one more time, just as these gentlemen represent the Parks Commission and our Parks and Public Works Department, we want to know that everyone in the PPW organization are as dedicated to maintaining and creating anew our urban forest, and we very much appreciate the character that it brings to the town. So for the community, I'd like just to thank him one more time. Thank you, Pamela. The next item on our agenda is closed session report. Madam Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no closed session and there's no report.
Love those meetings. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our town council and manager reports. But before we do that, I'd like to ask anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to items on tonight's agenda to fill out the buff card that's in front of you and bring it to our clerk on my left, to your right. And that would be on any matter on the agenda, including the item we call verbal communications. Council matters. I have one council matter that I'd like to present, and then I'll see if anyone else does. Okay. On Thursday of this week, the town was recognized at a meeting of the Santa Clara County Cities Association. That would be the Mayor's Council of the 15 cities and towns of the county, and the Managers Association. We met in Sunnyvale. There was a good deal of discussion about some significant matters, but the conclusion was a recognition of the members of our community and the other 14 cities and towns of the county for our participation in the Let's Move America program. This is a program to raise a healthier generation of kids. It was presented to us by the Board of Supervisors, but more particularly, it was recognized by the President of the United States in his representative. And it's a certificate of commendation presented to the town of Los Gatos in recognition of our being a member of the universal group of cities in the county that was the first county in the United States to agree as a body to move forward with this particular orientation towards healthy kids. And it was so noted, apparently much to the chagrin of some other counties, where they have not quite as active an organization as ours. And we want to recognize and remind everyone that we are focusing in the next few months on healthy lifestyles, particularly the way we raise our children and educate them in those habits, both exercise and eating habits that will allow them to grow healthier as they move through their childhood. So that's the only thing I needed to say in the council matters. Councilwoman Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to tour the library and construction. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Diego and Bruce, who led that tour. Seeing something under construction, it is so amazingly creative, great organization, and it's fascinating. And I'm going to urge staff in some future Did You Know to have someone make a presentation, because there are things going on right now that are unbelievable. I mean, for me, for example, it was unbelievable that an elevator structure that used to take tons of room and therefore use up all this square footage. They now are able to put in a area as small as a small closet and have it be environmentally friendly besides. And so I thought the elevator was fascinating. I'm sure there are a lot of other things, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to share those with the public as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. You're very excited, Councilwoman. Any other council comments during this portion? Seeing none, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. First, I'd like to turn your attention to the slide. The council long ago approved the creation of a new Los Gatos Creekside Sports Park on University Avenue just north of Vasona Lake. I wanted to let you see a conceptual layout that has resulted from 3 community forums over the last 3 months, as well as a review by the Parks and Recreation Parks Commission and direction from the council subcommittee. Best way to view this is 3 fields in one, in that we've created the largest single field possible that can meet the needs of all ages for soccer, football, and lacrosse, and simultaneously provide parking, a snack shack and restrooms and bleachers, and then a picnic area, as well as equipment storage in the kind of miscellaneous pieces of the park. The creek runs down here, University Avenue is at the top, and the dam to Vasona is over here. And one of the key issues that we'll be working on over the next several months is how a bridge crossing can be provided across the creek to connect to the Los Gatos Creek Trail. If the mayor so wishes, or 2 members of the council, since this is not agendized for discussion tonight, this could be put on the May 16th agenda along with the budget to provide any conceptual direction from council, knowing your formal approval will come after the environmental and land use review through the Planning Commission.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Larson. And we have...
Excuse me. Yes, thank you. I actually had 2 other announcements. Let's see, we are soliciting new members of the Youth Commission for next year, and that application process ends in a month and a half, and we encourage all youth of our community to sign up. And this is our last meeting before April 30th, which will be a significant day downtown. It'll be the kickoff for the First Churches tour that the Communities of Faith have organized starting at 2 p.m., as well as our wine walk, launching the summer shopping season. I also wanted to introduce Sergeant Mike D'Antonio, who is part of our Emerging Leaders program and is attending executive team meetings this month and has the honor of attending a council meeting as well. With that, I get to introduce Davina Videna, who's an intern in our office, who's going to do tonight's Did You Know? She is a San Jose State student majoring in environmental studies, and this Did You Know follows on the theme of April as Keep Los Gatos Beautiful Month. Davina.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Did you know that the Bring Your Own Mug campaign started on April 1st? The campaign encourages residents and visitors to keep Los Gatos beautiful. If each household in town reduced weekly number of disposable coffee cups by 2, over 1.2 million cups would be absent from landfills annually. A styrofoam coffee cup discarded today will remain in landfill space for close to 500 years. How does this work? The town has partnered by local cafes to offer special discounts during the month of April, which is Keep Los Gatos Beautiful Month. Simply present a reusable mug at time of purchase to receive your discount. You can check out participating locations listed on the town's website in Los Gatos Weekly Times and Keep Los Gatos Beautiful publications. Flyers also have been distributed to the participating businesses to be placed in their windows. For more information, visit our town website, and you can follow the link to Keep Los Gatos Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor. I also just saw we have another member of the staff who's joining us from Los Gatos Leadership. So Jeremiah, just wanted to do a shout out. So.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, the next item on our agenda is consent. The calendar can be approved in a single motion unless an item is requested to be pulled. Any member of the council wish to pull an item?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I would like to go back to the sports field for a moment. Is that appropriate now, or are we?
Would you rather just pull that and we'll talk about it as such, or you want to clarify with the manager?
Well, I had a question on it, but I guess I'll pull it.
We'll pull
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other items? So we're going to pull item number 5 from the consent calendar. Any member of the audience wish to pull an item from the calendar? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Madam McNutt.
I'll move to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Been moved. Is there a second?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And we'll hear item 5 immediately after verbal communications, okay? Let's go, therefore, to verbal communications. This is an opportunity for anyone in our chamber to speak to an item not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, then please come forward. I'll let you fill out the buff card later. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, then we will go beyond that item and look to our public hearings portion. And for that purpose, we're going to pull item number 5, Los Gatos Creekside Sports Park. And I'd ask that we have a staff presentation on this item. All right.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to go over a quick update of where we're at with the timeline and how this particular contract fits into that timeline. As Greg mentioned earlier, we are in the process of beginning the environmental review. So now that we have a concept that has been brought forward to the Parks Commission, that was brought forward 2 weeks ago and passed to be recommended to the Planning Commission with a 6-2 vote. Our next step is to actually begin the environmental review. The environmental review will consist of looking at the site itself, and in order to do that, we have to do some design features like looking at grading, looking at the exact location of the bridge, having a conceptual design for the bridge, and any other structural features for the particular layout for the sports park. Once that is completed, we can then proceed with the environmental review process and then to the Planning Commission. Our plan at this point is to bring the master plan with the environmental review completed to the Planning Commission in July with a target of bringing it back to council in either the end of August or beginning of September for approval. After that approval, we would move into the development of the actual detailed plans and specs. This particular consultant contract will begin that process by helping us with all of the design features that are early in the process, that are structural in nature, that don't have to do with the particulars of the layout, but also allow us to give enough information for environmental review and to be able to move forward. It's important to note that we have a very aggressive timeline, and any delays in the environmental review has a significant potential to delay the construction of the sports park. I thought I can take any questions.
All right, questions for staff? Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Please.
Mayor. I was recognizing Mr.
Councilman
Rice.
Spector.
I had raised questions with Mr. Larson, and so this would be a good opportunity to just raise them in general. The question I had when I saw this was, since the project is going to go through, I think, the CDAC and the Planning Commission and then the Town Council, and right now it shows conceptually one large sports field or soccer field. Would there be the opportunity down the line to to change that or tweak it if one of the bodies wanted to do it? And if so, how would that fit into the EIR?
At this point, the plan for the EIR would be to look at the general layout of the facility. The things that would impact the EIR would be number of traffic trips, the number of people at the facility, the location of the bridge. So if we move to something that affected any of those particular factors, it may impact the environmental review process. But if we stayed with something that was similar to our plan as far as the use of the space, the number of vehicle trips, et cetera, it would not have an impact.
All right. Vice Mayor.
Excuse me, thank you. Actually, Councilwoman Spector asked exactly the question I was looking to ask. Thank you.
Any other questions from Council? Councilwoman McNutt?
Thank you. This kind of ties back to the manager matters. It feels awkward to me to be going ahead with the contract, and I understand the process, and I would be okay with going ahead with the contract for the next level of design, but it feels awkward to me for us to be proceeding along this path without council having looked at, other than tonight, and discussed with the public the conceptual design, because the farther along we go through the process, the more it becomes assumed that decisions have been made, even though there's opportunities later to do some changes if we choose to. So I would like to take the manager up on his suggestion of having us add the review of the conceptual plan to the May 16th meeting, in which case I would be fine then with going ahead with the contract for the next level of design.
All right. So there's a recommendation made that the council move this to the 16th. Is there any discussion on just that matter? Okay. So, yes.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I don't want to move agenda item 5 to the 16th. I'm fine with going, I don't make a motion to.
I'm sorry, I didn't indicate that you were moving the agenda. I'm just moving the discussion to the 16th, yes. Seeing no further discussion, I would like, just by consensus, is that satisfactory, nod of head? Okay, since it's not a motion, then that's what we're going to recommend, that on the 16th of May, you return on our budget evening, and we'll fit an appropriate time for this to be discussed. Meanwhile, is there a desire on part of any member of the council to make the motion then to authorize the manager to execute this amended agreement? Yes, Madam McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and move for approval then of item number 5.
Okay. Is there a second? So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item number 7. Item number 7 is to adopt a resolution with certain department fees, rates, and charges, and amending certain fees, rates, and charges for fiscal year 11-12. And Jenny Hariyama will be our presenter. Ms. Hariyama.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight we will be presenting the proposed comprehensive fee update for 11-12. And as you know, council approves fees each year annually, and that council policies state that we should require cost recovery to avoid any general fund subsidy. The last user fee that we conducted was last year. And what I'd like to do now is just quickly go through some of the changes that we're proposing. We do have no new fees for this year's schedule. Some fees have been clarified to provide a better understanding of the charges that are incurring. Most of the fees that you see before you on attachment 4 have been updated by the CPI, or the Consumer Product Index. And a few fees have been increased beyond the CPI, and those are highlighted in actually attachment 3, which reviews all of the proposed recommended changes. With that, I would like to recommend that council adopt the attached resolution, attachment number 1, continuing and amending certain departmental fees, rates, and charges. And these adopted fees, if so approved by council, will go into effect July 1. That concludes my report. If you have detailed questions, there are members of staff here that can answer your questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hariyama. And just for our attention, we did receive a desk item that clarified a couple of those issues for the council. All right, council members of the council wish to address any question to the staff regarding this item. Vice Mayor.
The question I have is why two departments, Library and Parks and Public Works, had no fee increases for the CPI.
Speaking for both of them who are not here, my assumption would be that they felt like that any of the proposed increases would not be warranted at this time, given the substantial increases that were made in the past year. Parks and Public Works made adjustments, and Library made adjustments in last year's fee schedule, or the current year, excuse me.
Please.
Okay, and I understand that because we did do a number of fee changes last year, but if we made them appropriate last year, there was a CPI increase. Would those not still go up by at least the CPI?
Councilmember Rice, if I could address your question on the PPW fee and the police department fees, not including the CPI automatic inflator. We have a resolution specifically for our building, our community development activity fees. The resolution, when those fees were first adopted by council, included an automatic escalator. We would have to, which we would have to, they include that automatic provision for a CPI increase. We would have to take action to negatively affirm them for that particular department. In the case of the PPW department and police, they did not, when those fees or fines were established, there was no automatic escalator for CPI.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Other questions from council? Yes, Madam McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question of staff, and it ended up as one of the items on the desk item, and I wanted to call it to council's attention again and go through staff's explanation and then pose a philosophical policy question to council. So it's the item on the desk item, the last item, the research of records fee, and which it shows is currently at 0 and is going to 118 an hour for actual time spent. So if I could just ask staff to tell us again what that actually means, and this is in the Community Development Department area.
Thank you. I'd like to answer that for you. First off, the fee is an existing fee. It was just grouped under a category of fees that are called, it's in the proposed fee schedule, it's listed as O, request for service not covered by any other fee. So it was actually included in that. We just felt that it was important to break that out from, if you want to say this, this kind of box of other fees, so that it's people are very much aware of it when they ask for us, for the department to do some research for them. The only time this fee really comes into play if we have a customer that walks in the door and says, I'd like to know about a certain subdivision. We will pull all the files for them. We will help them find what they're looking for, but they do the research, and there's no fee for that. We help them through that process, whatever they need. This fee is really specific towards, and it happens generally with realtors, brokers, title companies that are calling us from all over the country and saying, I need to know everything about this particular parcel. Will you please do the research, write down the information, and email it or fax it or phone me back. And so that entails, there's a very big difference in those two processes. That one entails a staff member having to go and grab files, research it for themselves, then somehow document what they've found, and then contact the person who has asked for the information and relay back to them. So it's not really simply just saying, here, have a seat, we'll get you a file, we'll be able to show you what you're looking for, you can do the research, we can make copies for you. there's a very different amount of staff work involved in those two situations. So this fee has always been on the books. It's just been categorized in this other category. We want to break it out separately, and it's always been that amount. We're not increasing that amount.
And if I might add, it's not for simple requests coming in. It's a half-hour minimum fee as specified in the desk item. And so if it's work that takes 30 minutes or more.
Right, please.
So, I mean, that's understandable as you explain it. So my one question of staff is, do we need to have language that clarifies this a little bit more so that it's clear what the differentiation is? Because otherwise it's just a staff judgment call. And I think the way it's currently written, it could be applied to anyone who comes in and asks a question, and the half-hour minimum would be, the half-hour minimum is the lowest fee that you would pay, not a half an hour of time is before the fee is warranted. So that's, I think, would be helpful. My philosophical policy question to council is, it's really interesting the balance that we want to try to recover costs that are extraordinary, that are pulling resources and staff time away, versus how much should the public, should our residents be able to access without an additional fee? And I don't think we're going to really debate and solve that tonight, but I just find it really interesting as we get more and more pressured on budget to be constantly thinking about that tip point where it's something that is to be expected as part of municipal services versus something that's extra and therefore warrants an additional fee. So this is one that just kind of jumped out at me as I was picturing someone coming in saying, I'm thinking of buying a house at 27 Jackson Street. So when was it built and what permits have been pulled on it? And being charged $118 an hour seemed bothersome to me for that kind of thing.
Mr. Manager.
And I just would like to clarify that is the type of service we provide as a free service. It would be that more extraordinary situation where someone is calling from out of the area and can't really do the research himself. But that's our basic customer service that we provide, yes.
So Mayor, I think if we could just have some additional language that really makes it more specific as to when that extra fee would make me more comfortable that, because somebody new coming in would see that and could interpret that a different way.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
We could include that in the minutes, direction from the council, and then include this in the fee document next year as well, or we could try to craft some language right now for item F. It seems like the 30-minute threshold might deal with 90% of the cases in terms of keeping a resident walking in for a simple request from being charged a fee that they were not intended to be charged, as well as dealing with the outside interests who may be requesting. So one possible change might be under item F on page 3 of the full fees and document would be research records charge for staff research taking 30 minutes or more. So it's clearly staff research, not just helping a customer.
I think that would be appropriate. Any other comments to that regard? Yes, Mr. Leonardis.
Just had a comment or a question for staff on this. At what point in the process is the requester being informed they will be charged a fee, and how much?
And I think that's what was the impetus, if you want to say, for actually breaking this out, is so that it's very clear to people. When someone calls and asks for significant amount of information, that's the first thing we'll tell them, is that we'd be more than happy to provide that service for you. However, we do work on a cost recovery basis, and we will have to collect a fee for that. And they would explain that fee before they had a commitment to go ahead and do the work.
So, follow-up question. Councilwoman McNutt mentioned a local resident requesting some general information about a property they were interested in purchasing, compared to, say, somebody calling from Alabama from a title company, a commercial entity, trying to get some information. And I think our staff member would differentiate at that time between the two and decide which one's chargeable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I have a question. It relates to the address confirmation verification in the staff desk item. We're charging $116 per address. And then there are other agencies that are listed, and there's a real divergence of charges. Ours being the lowest, which is, I think, commendable. For basically the same process, can you explain why you think the fees are so divergent?
First off, I just want to correct that our address fee is $232, so it's actually, it's near the bottom, but it's actually in the middle, I would say, of the list. I would say it depends on the jurisdiction's desire to become completely cost recovery. What percentage of cost recovery do they want to strive for is where you'll see that difference. Because in my experience, addressing is a similar process in most jurisdictions, and it's always conducted by the building department, so it's going to be the similar staff, similar level staff, similar type of work involved in it. So I think I would just have to surmise that it's the level of cost recovery that an organization wants to achieve.
Okay, I was actually referring to the verification request, not the
Okay,
processing.
And that is less, and that's what we're recommending. It is less because it's less process. And again, I'd have to defer to the fact that I think it's just the level of cost recovery that an organization.
Mr. Mayor.
And I'm understanding from our finance director that we have lower overhead also.
All right, Mr. Manager.
As the director said, there is differential rates of overhead and cost recovery for each jurisdiction. I also believe that until your action tonight, our address confirmation fee was $232. With your action tonight, we'll be dropping it down to $116, and it's possible that other jurisdictions haven't split out those two fees, and they treat all confirmations the same as an address request and processing. So we actually viewed this as a way to lower one fee in a reasonable way to reflect the actual work being provided.
All right, thank you. I do want to follow up on the comment that Councilwoman McNutt made of a philosophical nature. I think we're in an age where people are hypersensitive appropriately to the amount of fees charged by governmental entities. And the question is, how much am I getting for the tax dollars I already spend versus how much am I expending in addition to that for a particular service? And I think it's very important that we clarify that in the way we communicate our fee structure and those things that we are doing down at the counter, because if we are being appropriate to our task, then we should have our community very well aware of the fact that this is extraordinary service that they're getting, and it goes beyond what would be standard. They are asking for an additional service to be provided that would not be common to every member of the community on a day-to-day basis, and therefore that's the intent of the fee structure. And some clarification, some way to present that to our publics that as they come to the counter, I think would be very appropriate. Any other questions or comments about this? Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution related to fees? Okay. But before we go to that, I am again reminded that, see, I don't have any cards in front of me. Seeing no cards in front of me, anyone in the audience want to speak to this? This is your chance, and again, if you are really eager to speak to the whole question of fees, but have not filled out your card, I will let you come to the microphone and do so. I see no rush to the mic, so I think we're going to assume that the public is no longer going to have to speak to this. Now, let's go to the motion. Anyone wish to make a motion as regards this resolution? Councilmember Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move to adopt the resolution, attachment 1, continuing certain department fees, rates, and charges, and amending certain fees, rates, and charges.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on then to item number 8. This is a request that I made with the agreement of the Vice Mayor to move an item to our agenda for the council's consideration. This is to review our downtown conditional use permits and use conversions, give us the opportunity to kind of take a step back and look one more time at how we are formulating our response to the evolution of the downtown. And there are 3 items that we potentially could direct the staff to engage in, but I'd ask that the staff present as we begin our discussion.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Mayor. In addition, the Planning Commission at its last meeting dealing with the case also asked the council for additional policy direction related to conversion and use permits. So 2 sources for this item coming before you, the first being the council just 2 weeks ago. As it stands currently, only alcohol use permits are required to come to council by ordinance. This proposal recommends expanding that purview to all conditional use permits in the C2 district, which is the central business district downtown. This would include any conditional use permit approved typically for restaurants, salons, and formula retailers, and those would be the use permits that would start coming to council. We believe this is warranted for a number of reasons, which is an increasing turnover of properties downtown, continuing impact of the recession, and what has been an increase in conversion requests or considerations over the last several months, and it appears possibly continuing for the months ahead, given informal discussions that are already taking place on a variety of properties. To achieve this direction, to provide consistency to the review of conditional use permits for downtown requires 2 simultaneous actions by the council. One would to direct the preparation of an ordinance, making that a permanent change, and since that would be a change most likely to the zoning code, it would have to go to the Planning Commission first before it could come back to council. And with council recess, we think the earliest that could be brought back to you for ordinance adoption would be August, and then you have a delay period after adoption before it goes into effect. In the meantime, staff is recommending a more limited direction to direct staff to appeal approval of conversions only from the Planning Commission to the council. So if an application for a conversion of a non-formula retail to formula, or from retail to restaurant, or retail to personal services salon is approved by council, or is approved by the Planning Commission, staff would automatically appeal that up to council. And to minimize the impact on the applicant and to shorten the timeline, staff would simply take the action of the Planning Commission and the staff report that went to the commission and put it on the next available council meeting, which would likely be 2 meetings later because of noticing requirements. So it couldn't go to the next meeting, it would have to go to 2 meetings later. So that's staff recommendation. In addition, we think this is a tremendous opportunity to report back to annually to the council on the mix of businesses we have in the downtown. We're blessed with a very successful downtown, even through this recession, and through prior council discussion and direction, it's clearly believed that the appropriate mix of businesses downtown is a key part of that success. So having a metric that we bring back to you on an annual basis to measure that, we think would help in future council and planning commission consideration of these issues. That concludes staff report, and we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Questions for staff? Well, I have some comments. I think this is very appropriate, and I do believe that the direction staff has provided is in way of enhancing our ability to do something that's very significant. We are obviously in a very dynamic business environment in our downtown, and it's not by accident that we're able to do what we're able to do, and it's because we have been very astute in maintaining the appropriate balance of independent to formula retail. I don't think the recommendation is in any way, shape, or form intending to do anything but to give the council another set of eyes on proposals that are in front of us. And the recommendation that you make, Mr. Manager, I think the process that you're outlining is very appropriate, and I appreciate the direction you're taking. Please.
Did forget to mention one point on the interim solution of appeals. We would be appealing approvals of conversion of use, not where it's the same use, but we have some formula retailers, for example, who didn't have a conditional use permit, but if the new formula retailer that's taking over that formula site, they have to come in for a conditional use permit. That wouldn't be a change in use. That would not be appealed. Obviously, any member of the council or the mayor could request, or anybody of the public could appeal that item to the council, but that would not be appealed. It'd only be conversions of use. So I did want to clarify that.
Okay. Yes, Councilwoman Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Something that you said reminded me of an issue that came up before the Planning Commission recently, and I just wanted to go over that, given that the conversions will be coming to the council in some form. And that is, when I've listened to the Planning Commission recently or read their transcripts, what I have heard in a couple of occasions is that the Planning Commission has an issue that is problematic, that they don't know whether to go one way or the other. And I've actually heard Planning Commissioners say, well, it's going to go up to the council anyway. So, and I'm not saying that they're just sort of like letting it go, but I'm going to encourage the planning commissioners with this policy or anything else they're doing, whether or not it's an issue that comes before the council or not, I would expect the planning commission to, within the framework of the laws that they are working with and the facts that are presented to them, to make those difficult calls, whether or not it's an issue that's going to be coming before the council or not.
Okay. I think that's a point very well made, and I do feel that the Planning Commission has done an exceptional job in these cases. This is to, I think, emphasize again the significance that the council holds to the way we evolve our downtown, and that is a very important part of the character of this community, and this allows then our own way in on issues that would be seen as somewhat difficult or requiring definition for the Planning Commission. But I do believe that this is a step forward, and I again recognize that the interim steps that the manager is proposing would certainly would satisfy my issues. So there are 3 items. Staff, do you need each to be outlined, or can we do it as a single?
It can simply be a motion for staff recommendation.
All right. Can we have a motion to that regard, please?
I'll move the recommended action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And I believe that is the last item on our agenda, but Madam Attorney wants to make some comment. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to clarify an item before you asked about a closed session, and while there was no closed session, I was reminded by our calendar that after last meeting on April 4th, this council adjourned to a continued closed session, at which time you met on the matters listed on the agenda, and you took no action, and there is nothing to report out on that meeting either.
Very good, good catch. Okay, and then I would like to say to our staff leaders in the House, you chose the right council meeting to come to. This meeting is adjourned.